Hi, this is Sana and Adya from Team Envisionli, and today we'll be speaking to Praveena Shivram, who is a writer.
Yes, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Praveena. I'm based in Madras. I'm an independent writer, a single mother. I've done tons of writing, different kinds of writing. And that's about it. I love words. I love to read. I love to write. I love to do anything with words.
Did you always want to be a writer?
No. I always wanted to be a photojournalist. I was interested in photography. And I always thought that would be the career path that I would take, that I would go into photography. And sometime in college, when I was in Bombay, I kind of figured that cinematography, photography is what I was more inclined towards than writing. And so when I came back, that's the first job that I did. I worked as an assistant camera person. That's where I began. But writing it's always been there, but it wasn't a conscious choice till much later.
Was it easy to switch from studying math and science in school to a writing course? Was there a drastic change or was it a comfortable switch?
I don't think we did much studying of math and science in school. I think we just got by. In terms of was it easy to switch, I don't think I ever thought in like a math person or a science person. That's not how my brain is wired, which is probably why I never did well in math and science. So I never thought of myself like that. So it wasn't a switch so much for me as, oh my God, finally there's something that I fit into and this is my zone. So it was more of that. I think in school, if the option had been there, then I would totally have chosen literature or, something along those lines. But of course, once you come to college, then there was the option of literature. So,
yeah.
What was it like studying literature in college? What kind of things were you taught?
Oh my God, yeah. I think after the kind of a closed space that we had in school, where our choices for academics was very limited, and academics was also defined only in a certain way. Once we came to college, it was very liberating to sort of be able to breathe, like just be able to take in something and breathe through it and not just mug something up and vomit it in an exam paper. The kind of things that we did as part of the literature program was really varied, from like post-colonial literature to the Renaissance, to Shakespeare, to all kinds. Like, there was such a explosion of authors and poets and writers that happened as part of the program that it was really quite fantastic. And it still did follow, like the colleges in India still do follow a similar system of education like your schools would, where in the sense they tell you this is your exam and these are the things you have to read up, reference in the library. So, you were still, to a certain level, you're still spoon fed. You're still told, for this paper, read this. And that's it. There was no opportunity to explore beyond that. I think for me, that came when I went to the UK, because suddenly everything was different.
Is there any social stigma around being a writer?
Yes, of course. Yes. In fact, when I applied to the University of Leeds in the UK, I deferred my admission by a year because I wanted to try for scholarships, and I obviously I couldn't afford the course on my own, and I was determined to do this on my own. I had already worked for about 5-6 years, so it was something that I really wanted to do independently. So I said, okay, can I defer it by a year and let me spend the next 1 year figuring out how to get this money together to go and study there. So obviously scholarships were simply none for writing. There was only one scholarship called the INLAC scholarship, which is open to anybody, but you are simply not even considered if you're not applying for an MBA or something to do along those lines. Yeah. So writing was not even part of that list. And so then I said, okay, fine, I'll just take a loan and I'll apply for a loan. I was rejected by at least 3 banks because they were like, how are you going to pay this back? What kind of job will you get as a writer? There's no way you're going to be able to pay this back. So there is a lot of stigma even now, I would think, because the general opinion is that you can't make a living as a writer, which is actually true. It's very hard to make a living as a writer. I don't want to give you false hopes, or it is hard, but it's not impossible.
How was the transition from being a college student to becoming a working writer?
Oh, it's very different. It's because when you're a journalist and you have to file in your copy really quickly. So it's almost like, you go and do an interview in the morning, and in the next couple of hours, you need to file your story in. So there is no space to be poetic and, lyrical and, sort of get into the nuance of your craft. There's no space for that. You simply have to get the story out. So the fact that when you study literature, you're not necessarily studying how to write. You're just studying the world that informs this space of writing. Yeah. So it's not teaching you how to write, but it's only telling you that it's showing you the different kinds of writing that are there, and the kind of histories related to each of that writing that is there. How the writers sort of put their books together, the period they belong to, that sort of thing. So it's only actually on the job that you learn how to write, really. So because you're almost like pushed to a corner, you need to finish, you need to get the copy out. So there's no time to sort of stress.
Did your first writing job meet the expectations you had?
Not at all, because you always think it's going to be something else totally, and then it's not. But I also got a sense of that right at the beginning when I joined PC Shriram as an assistant camera person, right? Because I imagined it to be something else, and it was not. So already I kind of came from that space. So I didn't come in with any expectations for, being a writer or writing as a job.
Is writing a lucrative career?
It depends on what kind of space you want to get into, right? So if you're going to join a media house, then yes, you can live off it, right? It is you will be paid a certain amount. They will still you'll still be like wrung dry, but you will and you will get all your experience and all of that, but you will be paid. It's just that in general, anybody who's in the creative arts space, it's hard to quantify this, right? It's how do I quantify my time? I can't. I cannot tell you that 9 to 5 I'm writing every day. It's not a 9 to 5 job in that sense. But it doesn't mean that I am not writing also if I'm not writing. Yeah. So I am thinking about it. I am figuring out how I want to get this done. It's constantly running in my head, but I don't know how to quantify that to you, because to a person, like to a corporate person, it's almost like you're doing nothing. You're just dreaming. You're just like, what are you doing? You are finally you're writing only in the last minute, or finally you finish it in 2 hours. So then why did you take 1 week? So it's difficult to say that this is the kind of time I spend on it. This is how much I need, because also it depends from project to project. Sometimes I need a month before I can write. Sometimes I might need just 2 hours before I can write. So because it's so confusing and so much in a state of flux at all times, it is not easy to quantify it. And because it's not easy to quantify, that's why most writers or most people in the creative space are generally not paid well, because you don't have a marker or a standard for this.
What are your favorite and least favorite parts of being a writer?
The most favorite part of being a writer is that I get to create something on my own. The least favorite is also the same, that I'm on my own. So it's like you're constantly battling this sense of aloneness, because there's nobody with you. It's just you, your paper, your computer, or whatever. It's just you all alone sitting in the room and putting something together. So that gives you a high, yes, but it's also very hard to sustain that on an everyday basis, because you literally have to motivate yourself. You not only have to motivate yourself, you have to keep the enthusiasm going. Not only have to keep the enthusiasm going, you have to create something wonderful. When you have to create something wonderful, you have to be able to write it nicely. So it's like everything is completely on your own in the initial stage when you write. Once you sort of finish that draft and then you send it to a publishing house or to a media house, then of course you have editors coming in, you have other people sort of then collaborating with you and working with you. But that initial draft is just you. So that I would say is the best and the least not best part of it.
Do you have any hobbies or things you do in your free time? Does your career allow time for this?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do, but it's just the thing is, I'm not able to separate my so-called free time from my work time, because I feel like I'm constantly in a state of work in that sense, right? If I'm out, I'm constantly looking at things, I'm filing away things in my head, I'm listening to people, filing away conversation, look at something interesting, I file it away. But it's just that I'm doing it so unconsciously. It's not like I'm consciously thinking, that man's mustache is interesting, let me make a note in my head. It's not like that. It's just that you see it's like every day you're seeing so much and you're experiencing and sensing so much that it's like a constant state of imbibing things, because I don't know when what is going to be used. I'm not looking at it like that, right? So it's hard for me to say I'm on a break, I'm not working, because I'm never really on a break. And so it's just, I don't know how to answer what I do in my free time, but I do a lot of things. I read a lot, I sleep a lot, I'm also a mother, so I have 2 kids. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, there's lots of things to do.
Not really being on a break. Is this something you like or dislike?
Sometimes it gets overwhelming, yes, but because I don't know how to function any other way that will then inform my writing, because ultimately I love writing so much that I can't imagine ever not writing, that I'm happy to give that up if it's going to keep this going, So yes, it gets overwhelming. Yes, I feel burnt out and I get tired. And then I do take actual breaks where I maybe don't look at my computer for a couple of days. I don't check my emails. I do those kind of conscious break from like work things. It's nice to be in this, to be somehow wanted by this world of characters who are waiting for their stories to be told. I feel very nice and special, and loved and warm. But also it's exhausting. So I don't know if this is the most healthy way to look at it, but this is how I function, because ultimately everything has to inform my writing. Everything leads down to that river, that road, so it's hard for me to answer that question.
What qualities would you look for in someone wanting to be a writer?
I think the biggest quality for anybody who wants to be a writer is that just write. Start writing. There are no perfect copies. Because the books that we finally read, you have no idea what the first draft was like. So we tend to sort of compare our first drafts to the final book that we have read, which is the biggest mistake every writer does. So I would say write, keep at it. And the only other quality is really stamina. You need to have stamina to do your drafts, redrafts. There will be so many redrafts, and just to keep going, right? To have the perseverance to keep at it. And it's a very flat plane, like a monotonous keeping at it. Nothing exciting will happen like for 5 years. Because you're just working on that for 5 years, you keep at it, and then the book is published. And then if you're lucky, the book does well, and then you get your high. But it's a very, very flat road or a flat path that is there. So to keep yourself motivated and to keep at it is actually the hardest for any writer, no matter how talented or how amazing the writer is. This is what sets you apart.
So craft can be learned, but stamina is inherent?
Exactly. The craft and the language and all, I always never worry too much about it. Even when I do my workshops and when I teach, that's always what I say. Don't worry about it, because that will come. What you need to keep at is your own relationship to the language, your own relationship to words, because that is what's going to keep you going. If I have it's like having a friend only. If you have a friend of 20 years, how did it last 20 years? You worked on it, and there was something that keeps it going. Right? You may not talk to the friend every day, you may not even meet often, but you still keep the relationship intact. And that's what I mean even with words. So unless I build that and I spend energy on that, then no matter how great my craft or language is, it's not going to matter, because I'll never finish anything. It'll just be like ideas in my head.
And consistency is a necessity?
Consistency defined by you, not defined by somebody else.
Yeah.
Everybody will have different versions of what being consistent is. I would say define it by your own life, your own personality, and your own circumstance.
How easy is it to publish a book?
Oh my God, it's very hard, you guys. Horribly hard.
It's brutal out here.
So I can only talk for the Indian publishing scene, of course, because that's where I am. Indian publishing scene, there are 5 big publishing houses. The big tickets, the options are very few. And then you have many indie publishing houses, like independent publishing houses. So between these two, it's like a, how do I say it? It's like a complete chaotic landscape where we don't even have the system of what a European or a US market has, where every writer has to have an agent. And then only you can approach a publisher. In India, we don't have that rule. I can approach a publisher directly also if I want. Or I can keep an agent. So it's very confusing. And it's even the publishing houses are inundated with manuscripts. So most times yours could just get lost in that file and they may not even read it. So even to get an editor to read your work, you have to know people. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You need to know the editor or know somebody who knows the editor so that it goes directly to their inbox and not to the generic ID which is there on the website, because then it just gets lost. I mean, it's just luck. Somebody may read it and pick it up. It's like that. So even in the beginning stage, it's hard. And then they read it, and then there's another, all the other things will follow after that. And then you have the whole, you don't know which year your book is going to be listed under. They have their specific, every year they'll have a specific list that they want to bring out. They curate it according to genre, according to what the market is demanding, all of that. So you'll have to wait to see where yours comes in. And then there's a process of editing with them. Then there's copy editing and typesetting and proofreading. So it's a very long process. So I would say if you're looking to publish your book, you be prepared for the fact that it's going to take a very long time. So you need patience for that also, because at the end of it, you've spent a certain amount of time writing your book, and then you spend a certain amount of time getting it out there, and then at the end of it, you get nothing. There is no money there. So it's not an easy path, which is why I always tell every writer to also have a day job, so that you continue to have money to live, and then you can also pursue this. Otherwise, just with this, it's not possible. Even a Chetan Bhagat held his banking job for 5 years before he started making money on it. So you need to have a day job. That's the reality.
Do all writers read very fast?
I don't know if all writers read fast. I read fast. I don't know. But I also do recognize that my stamina for reading for longer stretches of time has come down because of so much of social media, so much of OTT content that you have.
A lot of people believe that writing is easy. Would you agree or disagree?
Of course, it's not. You have to work very hard at it. I think it's harder to be a writer than anything else, because it's you also have to battle a lot of your own self-doubt, your own imposter syndromes, and all the kinds of things that will keep coming up. Like you'll hate what you've written, you think it makes no sense, and you have to get out. Not only get out of that and still be able to create, but you're also creating for the world. So there is a lot of pressure that you take on yourself from what society is expecting or what the market is expecting, and then beyond that, what the story expects out of you, what are the characters expecting out of you, and then beyond that, what are you expecting out of yourself, what do you want to create, or what is the kind of voice that you want to have for your own thoughts and how you express something, right? So I think there's a lot of I would say it's very hard. It's not just about, I have a great story idea, let me put it together. It's not that. There is a lot of other things that inform how the story idea reaches your audience. And somehow retains the greatness that you had or you believed in when you got the idea, and then you have to translate that into a version that retains the essence of the greatness but still reaches your audience. That is very hard to do. It's not a simple process at all, because it means that you go in a lot into your own process, into your own self, your own personality. You go really deep inside, and then you sort of bring it out into the world. So it's not at all an easy process. I think it requires a lot of courage and strength to be able to go on this journey every single time, because every time I tell a story, I need to start from scratch again. I have to go back to who I am, what am I, where are these, what is informing these ideas, what are the things informing my words, because everyday words are also changing, right? We are seeing so much, we are hearing so much, new words are getting added, meanings of words change. So there's so much that keeps coming. So you have to not only keep abreast of what's happening, but you also got to keep track of how it's changing you, and therefore how it changes your writing. So yeah, I think it's not at all easy, very hard.
Are all writers exceptional at spelling, and are you all grammar Nazis?
I am a grammar Nazi, that is true. It makes me it irritates me if I see like it's without a thing. I don't know if all writers are, but I think it's just what do you call it? Your default zone, right? Because your profession is that, and you're constantly worried about typos and errors and stuff. And even after like 3 rounds of proofreading and stuff, there will still be typos, and it's very irritating. So I think it's just a default mode that we have. I don't think it's like consciously I'm trying to be a grammar Nazi, but I accept it. I don't know if I'm exceptional at spelling and all. I still make mistakes. Yeah, that I don't know.
Does reading a lot make you a better writer?
Oh yes, you must read a lot. That is the only way to become a writer, really. Read a lot, write a lot. But the more you read, the more it's just accessing different ways in which a story can be told. So yes, read as much as you can, and read across genres. Don't stick to just one. Just because I like murder mysteries, don't read only murder mysteries. Read non-fiction, read different kinds of books. Humor, literary fiction, whatever you can get your hands on. Yes, you will have your favorites, but it's nice if you're looking at writing seriously, then read across genres. That's the only way to become better.
The last question is, what is it like to experience writer's block?
Oh, it's actually, I mean, okay, so there are 2 ways to look at it. I don't technically believe that there is a writer's block in that sense. I think I wouldn't call it a writer's block. I would just call it a stage in your writing path where you just hit a dead end, right? And it's not a dead end that you can't get past. You can, but I think it's just exhaustion after a point. You're just tired, and so your mind shuts down, and you're like, that's it. So I would look at writer's block as a rest stop, which is just telling you to stop and just let it rest for some time and then come back to it. Usually a writer's block is a clue to tell you you're tired, so stop and take a rest, go do something else and come back to this, and then you sort of get past that, right? But if you sort of start to romanticize this writer's block, then it becomes very hard to get out of. So I would say don't romanticize it. Don't look at it as, oh, I have a writer's block, I can't write. Not like that. It's just something from the outside telling you to just stop for a bit and come back afterwards. So sometimes it could just be like, go take a walk and come back, give it a rest. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this. We hope you found it helpful.